What is the meaning of this? Is this truth? Is this true? Or is this false? Is that mind? Or is that not mind? What is the meaning of that? No truth, no false. No truth, no lie. Also no mind, no not mind. Nothing at all. We say originally, nothing at all. If you look at the Six Patriarchs Platform Sutra, it says originally nothing. That point. What is the meaning of that? Truth is just truth. False is just false. Mind is just mind. No mind, just no mind. So things are just as they are. In front of me, the flowers are red. We say mountain is mountain. Water is just water. How can things change? But we look around us and this world is changing all the time. How can that be? So many Korean people are coming here to Jagwangsa today to hear English Dharma speech. That's very revolutionary. That's very wonderful. That's a big change. And you also see here in front of you many Western people, including myself, who have come to Korea to learn and to practice the way of a monk and to get the Dharma. That's also a big change. But before, I said everything just as it is. So, what is correct? Truth is false. Truth is lie. Is that correct? Or no truth, no lie. No truth, no false. Nothing at all. Is that correct? Or everything just, things just as they are. Truth is just truth. False is just false. Or as Songchol Kunsanim said, mountain is just mountain. Water is just water. Is that correct? So, three kinds of statements. One is everything is a changing. One is everything becomes emptiness. And the third is all things just as they are. All things just as they are is the truth. Which of these three statements is correct? If somebody here says, I found out which is correct, emptiness is correct, then this big heavy stick will hit them 30 times. If you say that emptiness is correct and the stick hits you, you still have to exclaim, ouch. How can emptiness exclaim, ouch? So, maybe emptiness is not correct. Somebody says, I understand. Things just like they are. That's the truth. Everything just like they are. Mountain is just mountain. Water is just water. That's correct. But then you notice everything's changing also. Everything's changing all the time. So what is truth? What is correct? You find it, the stick will hit you. You cannot find it, also the stick will hit you. Why? Sky is always blue, but white snow covers Carroll Mountain. What does that mean? Sky is always blue, but white snow covers Carroll Mountain. That's a just seeing, just experience things just like this as they are now. So a few days ago, it snowed very hard. Came down. The last few days snowed a lot. But today, again, we see this clear blue sky. But the mountain is covered. The mountain is always white. Not always, but the mountain is white now. That's a truth just like this. That means just this moment, what do you experience? That's most important. In our school, which Zen Master Sung-san established in the West, we can sometimes explain Zen by a means of a circle. Not only our school, but in the past in the Zen tradition in China, many teachers used the circle to show the truth of Zen. We look at this big circle. Where is the beginning? Where is the end? We cannot see that. Maybe somebody says, this circle is our mind. But if you ask the circle, are you a mind? It never says I'm a mind. That's a human beings. But maybe it's just a way of explaining that the circle is a mind. But we use this circle often to teach the principle of Zen. So today I will talk about that. Not only do we use this in our school, but in the past this has been used many times by great Zen masters such as Zen Master Namchan. And his way of using this circle was a very difficult to understand, was a very unique way. I will talk about that a little later. But first, I'd like to talk about my teacher's way of using this Zen circle. Here you can see this is Zen circle. If you notice in the circle that we can call this point 0 degrees. This point at the beginning, we can call that 0 degrees. And if we start here and go around, we reach another point, the same area actually, which we call 360 degrees. On the way, we go through 90, 180, 270, and finally we arrive at 360 degrees, which is the same point that we started at. So we can make these degrees on the circle. Of course, the true circle, there are no degrees like this. But for the sake of teaching, we make these points. And then we can look at our Zen practicing, our Zen path, as partly going around this circle. So we start off, where do we start off? At 0 degrees. What we call the small I, the common dust. clinging, attachment to name and form. The small I is never satisfied. It's always craving something. Even gets what it wants, it's still not satisfied. This is why the Buddha taught the truth of suffering. All desire eventually leads to suffering. We start off with the small I, the common dust. But as we practice the way, as we do some kind of practice, as we do whether it's meditation or whether we do some kind of chanting practice or bowing, as we do this practice, we leave the small I and we reach what we call karma I, 90 degrees. At karma I, there is still some attachment to thinking, but we experience the truth that all things are changing all the time. We experience that form is emptiness and that emptiness is form. So somebody says, philosophically, oh, that's my karma. I got this bad result because it's my karma. Somebody got sick and they could not complete something, and they said, that's my karma. Or in Korea, for example, many people go to fortune tellers and they look and they check their fortune. And somebody who can see other people's karma can be a fortune teller because they can check. Sometimes they cannot see very well, but if they can see very well, they can check the future. You will have, the next 10 years will be very prosperous, or the next 10 years will not be so good. That's all coming from karma I. That karma I is very interesting, but there's still attachment. Because there's still attachment, there's still suffering. If we stay there, then we still suffer, even though it's better than just the small I at 0 degrees. So we reach what we call this karma I, 90 degrees. It's very tempting to think about your karma. What's my karma? Oh, I have lots of karma. Well, then if somebody says to you, how much does your karma weigh? How much good karma do you have? How much bad karma do you have? You cannot answer. So it's still an attachment to thinking. So the Zen masters, our teachers, say to us, go beyond thinking. Go beyond even thinking about my karma, my life, my death. Go beyond. Already, we just chanted the Heart Sutra in Korean, and the last line was, beyond, beyond. Go beyond to the far other shore. So what happens when we leave this karma I? We leave this karma I and we go to 180 degrees. At 180 degrees, there's what we call nothing I. That's right up here, nothing I, 180 degrees. There's no form, no emptiness. At this point, 1,000 times 0 is equal to 0. 1 times 0 is equal to 0. Everything returns to 0. My teacher used to say to us, 1 plus 2 does not equal 3. He said, 1 plus 2 equals 0. How can this be? Then somebody said, how can you say 1 plus 2 equals 0? Then he replied by saying, if you give me 1 apple and I eat it, goes into my stomach, and then you give me another 2 apples and I eat them, go into my stomach, then 1 plus 2 is equal to 0. So everything becomes emptiness. No matter how much we accumulate during this lifetime, no matter how much money we make, or no matter how much houses we have or possessions, eventually it all returns to zero. That we call true emptiness. For those of you who read Chinese, 金光. So, true emptiness. There's no form, no emptiness, nothing I. In that area, open your mouth, it's already a mistake. Cannot talk about that area. Maybe somebody says nirvana. It's sublime nirvana. But nirvana never says, I am nirvana. The person in nirvana cannot say nirvana. We never have somebody come back and said, I was in nirvana. So we can only express that through some action. Before I picked up the stick, I hit the table. I shouted. In this action is a true emptiness. This action shows us the way to true emptiness. But if we stay at 180 degrees, if we stay at true emptiness, we also get attached. Attached to what? Attached to emptiness itself. So somebody says, I attained emptiness. I attained emptiness. But if that person really is got emptiness, then no more I. Cannot have an I. So the teaching of Theravadan Buddhism and Hinayana Buddhism takes us to this point, 180 degrees. After this point, Mahayana Buddhism begins. The teaching of everything's created by the mind alone. The teaching that all dharmas originally come from stillness. These are Mahayana teachings. They start here at 180 degrees. So we go from 180 degrees. What's the next point? We reach is 270 degrees. 3/4 of the way around, 270 degrees. That's called freedom I. In Korea, you have a saying, 진공 묘유. In true emptiness, there is something mysterious. So, if we don't attach to emptiness, if we don't have anything at all, but we continue practicing, we continue doing Zen practice, continue with our great vow of practicing, we can arrive at this freedom I. There is freedom from form and freedom from emptiness. We are free from the form. We are free from emptiness. We are free from the form of 0 degrees, from small I, and we are also free from empty, from being attached to emptiness. That's an absolute existence or freedom I. At this point, the numbers can change. 1,000 times 100 is equal to 1,000 times 9. Numbers can go any different way. Completely change with no logic. If somebody is able to use the energy of this universe, then they can do strange things like fly in the sky. They can do strange things like make their body levitate. They can eat things that normally human beings can't eat. One man that I know that lives near here, one Korean man, he can eat metal. He can eat all kinds of hard things like metal, like razors, like razor blades. He can eat screws, and it's all digested in his stomach. We can say he has some freedom I. He's not attached to the form. He went to America, and while the cameras were rolling, while they filmed him, and while there were people watching, he took 4 watches and he just ate them. He just swallowed them with water. He lives in Gwangju. I met him. We say that's a freedom eye. That means on the Zen circle, we say 270 degrees. Not attached to form, not attached to emptiness. But maybe if somebody stays at this place for a long time, they become attached to freedom itself. So there are some yogis, there are some yogic practitioners, some yogis in India or Nepal, and they don't have to eat anything at all, and they can live for 200 or 300 years. They don't come out in society, but we hear about them. Every once in a while, somebody hears about them. They don't have to eat very much at all. In fact, if they eat more, maybe their body starts to get older quicker. Maybe they just live on air. We call that freedom eye. Maybe they can also fly in the sky a bit. But when you look at it, you see that, when you look at this realistically, you see that this is also a kind of attachment. That if we stay in the area of freedom, we also get attached. And no matter how long we stay there, eventually there will be suffering. Is it good to live 200 or 300 years? Will it take away your suffering? Will you be happier? There's no guarantee. So we must take one more step. One more big step is necessary. What is that step? Again, looking at the Zen circle, we go one more step from 270 degrees to 360 degrees. 360 degrees. 360 degrees is called Big I, the absolute, non-attachment thinking. Just like this. For those of you who read Chinese, here, yo-yo, yo-yo jari. That means form is form, emptiness is emptiness. The numbers at this point say 3 times 3 is equal to 9. Very simple. Very simple. That means all things just as they are complete and is truth. Before, when I was in Seoul, when I lived in Seoul, we used to drive. Every day I drive downtown. I drive my teacher, drive his car, and we went past this big church in Haewadong. And in this church on the front, it says, in Korean, it says, I am the way, the truth, and the life. Every Catholic understands that. Many Christians understand that. This point is that same. 360 degrees is same, that point. If you attain your true self, you are the way. You are the truth. You are the life. In Buddhism, we don't say Jesus, attain Jesus. We say attain your true self. That's the only difference. In Christianity, say, you must, through Jesus, everything through Jesus. But attain your bodhisattva self, then you are the truth. You are the way, the truth, and the life. You can be the bodhisattva in the world. When somebody's in need of help, you just help them without thinking. When I first came to Korea, It was a wonderful thing. Now it's hard to see, but when I first came to Korea, I would stand on the bus. I would take the bus in Seoul to go to Yonsei University to study Korean. And I was holding many books. And the person who was sitting down, without any speech, would just take my books from me and hold them while I was traveling. Don't expect anything, but they just took the books and held them. That means helping without any idea, without any condition. That's very wonderful. That's our human being's nature. We call that big I. Somebody's hungry, give them food. Somebody needs your help, listen to them. Find out what you can do. We call that big I. So at the point of this big I, doesn't matter. Your religion is different. Your philosophy doesn't matter. You just do it. This is very important. Then somebody says, but I don't understand on this circle. Small I and big I are the same point. 0 and 360 degrees are the same point. How can that be? Same point, 0 and 360. 0 is a small I, clinging, attachment to name and form. But 360 is a big I, non-attachment thinking, just like this. So are they the same? Are they the same point? Are they the same or are they different? This is a question that many people asked over many, many generations. So somebody asked the great teacher, the great Chinese Zen master Dawi, your mind before you got enlightenment and your mind after you got enlightenment and attained the way, how is it different? Dawi was great Zen master in China. Then he said, before I got enlightenment, sky was blue. After enlightenment, also sky is blue. That's a very interesting. So that point is not far from you. The great Bodhisattva way is not far from you. You have a choice. Which way will you go this moment? How will you keep your mind moment to moment? This moment makes everything. If you're clear this moment, then your action is clear, then your future is clear, then also your past is no problem. That's a very interesting. That's a very interesting place. So our Zen practice means you don't have to change your outside form. Many of you who came here are not monks and nuns like us sitting here in the front. You live in the world, you have your clothes, you have your jobs. What do you need? Only direction is important. Very important is direction. The direction that you're going in. Where do you come from? Where do you go? That's very important, that direction. Just a couple days ago, we had a precept ceremony for our foreign Sanims, and not Sanims actually, for our foreign Buddhist members. Many of our lay people took the 5 precepts. These 5 precepts, some of them are very difficult for lay people to keep, actually. But what's important is the direction, the vow behind these precepts. If you live in society, maybe it's almost impossible not to sometimes have a glass of wine or have some kind of drink. But one of the precepts said, don't take intoxicating drinks. What's important is direction. Your direction is important. Why you do something. Thank you.